Okay, Liberty or Death, the coin game. I've actually ended ended the game. The game's over, and it ended in 1776 during the winter quarters phase. I'm not gonna. I was gonna do a video showing kind of a lot of the gameplay, how it works, but really there's better videos out there that explain in detail, how the game works and how coin works. Briefly, though, I'll go in. I'll just do a little brief one in case you haven't seen any of those or are not interested in seeing any of those. But basically, there'll always be two cards showing up here. One will be the current card, and one will be the future event. So it's a little strange, to kind of maybe think about that. As a player in this, you're looking into the future as well. You can see what's going to happen in the future. But that's the construct of the game. And as a game mechanic, it's a pretty interesting one, in the sense of how it drives your decision making on how you want to act and what you could see possibly could happen, shortly into the future. How much of that, how you can wrap your mind around it and make that work in terms of reality. Well, I suppose you can in some ways. But anyway, each card's going to have a list at the top or of each faction in order. And this allows for who plays first or who can play at all during that round of play. So in this case, you have the Patriots, British, French, and Indians in that order. And what you do is you go over and you look at the eligibility faction. So if everyone was eligible, which happens at the beginning of the game and after a winner's quarters phase, or after one of these brilliant strokes cards have been played, if everybody's eligible, then players decide if they want to play that round. So the Patriots would have the first option. The Patriots have, you have a number of options here. One, you can pass, and that way you'll remain eligible for the next card play. You'll also get a small bonus of resource. Or you can choose one of the three types of actions, and these will depend on kind of how you want to limit your opponent. So one, you could play a command only with no special activation. Each side has a list here of stuff they can do, or actions they can take. They have commands and they have special activities. And they're all a little different in how they work. But if you don't want to play the event here, okay, but you also don't want the next person to play the event. Let's say in this case, the Patriots, they don't particularly going to benefit from this event, or there's something else they want to do, but they also don't want Britain to play that event. In which case, they can do this first command only with no special activity. That's limiting to them, but it also limits, if Britain wants to play next, it limits Britain to only a limited command. The difference between a command and a limited command is most commands allow you to do multiple spaces, so you can muster troops in more than one space. You have to pay resources to do so. So a limited command means you can only do it in one space that turn. So that's an advantage of doing that. You could do a command and special activity. This gives you the most bang for your buck, because you're going to do one of these and then you're going to be able to do one of your special activities. But that also allows the second faction to play that turn the ability to use that event if they wish. Finally, you could do just the event, but if you do the event, you're allowing the second faction to do a command and their special activities. So you're allowing them to get the most bang for the buck. Okay, so if the Patriots would do that, then Britain is next up here. And again, they could choose to pass if they would. This would allow then the French, who are third on the list, to choose one of these. They could pass if they want, and so on. Once two players have committed to that action, or everybody's passed, then the factions that are on here, they go to ineligible. So they cannot act on the next card play coming up. In this case, these two would be eligible, and then this card would become the active card, and you would flip the next one over. And that's basically how, the game turn works. So I said I wasn't going to get in depth and play, but it's only a couple minutes to kind of explain how the turn works. Okay, so how did this game end? Well, as I said in the intro video, there's these winter quarters, and they come at the bottom of a year worth of cards. And when they come up, when they flip up here, the turn stops. This goes here, and you immediately resolve the winter quarters. And there's a list of things you do here, and this is also spelled out here on this handy player aid card. And you go through these steps. And the first step you do is you check for victory. And in this case, at the end of 1776, we checked for victory, and the Patriots won because their opposition was greater than 10, or 10 or greater than the total support that the British had. That causes an immediate end of game, and then you total up the victory points. In this case, the Patriots and the French were tied, but the French are not eligible to win because they haven't got Treaty of Alliance in play yet. So the Patriots win in this case. They won, just a brief, maybe I can go through the cards. They won due to kind of the French helping them more than the French probably should have. The French played an event that helped them build up opposition or had the British lose support. And then the Patriots were able to play another card that did that. And then the winter quarters phase came up. And that's why this was so lopsided here at this point, was that that's how the factions worked together. Also, in general, the Patriots and French worked together much better than the Indians and the British did not work together. The British kind of let some events go that really hurt the Indians. They weren't giving the Indians resources. This pissed the Indian player off. So they didn't try and stop events from happening that hurt the British. So there is that aspect of the game where, especially I think early on, and sometimes it's not apparent. For example, at the beginning of this turn, the British support was actually slightly ahead of the opposition that the Patriots had. So it wasn't necessarily apparent that this was going to happen at the start of the turn, but it did just kind of steamroll. And there was also a huge battle up here that the French played a card that that made the Patriots march and gave them a bonus in combat, and they destroyed a big Tory force by a lot. This allowed them to put colonies into active opposition and really hurt the British and help them in terms of the opposition versus support. So that's kind of how my game went. Ended early in 1776. Didn't go, as long as I haven't had that happen that early. But it's definitely something that I like in the game, that there is that ability to see the game end early. You have to be, aware of this. And, obviously it was poor play probably on the French part, as much as on the British and the Indians part as well. So I'm going to do another kind of final thoughts. But before I do that, I just, on this video, I wanted to go through the components of the game and kind of my take on them, or my thoughts on them. One, the map, I said earlier, is pretty. It's got this nice texture. I think, it just looks good. It lays nice and flat, the hard-mounted map. The components are really nice. The colors are good. The counters are, they come pre-rounded and cut, and so the pieces are great. It's all really functional, in my opinion. You have the turn track. There's a lot on this kind of records track, and early on it tends to all be kind of congested down here. But as you start playing, these things will change, and you'll get less congestion in general. The cards, nice. They shuffle easy. They seem durable so far. No durability issues. They're not the super stiff cards or anything. So they're very, very nice. You get a ton of player aids in this game. I don't have them all out. They're in the box here, but you get like 4 of these. You get, I think 4 of these. You get, all your solo, bot, charts. And these charts are nice because you can, every player can get one. So you can see, not only what your actions are, but what your opponents can do. They have, things like the victory check. So, this is, really, really functional and really well done charts. The rules, I didn't have a problem with the rules, really. There was a few things I'm not super, I'm not the coin player, that were a little wonky as far as trying to understand what the rules are saying. And on these charts too, it can be a little confusing, as far as how they're worded. But once you kind of get, how these are like literal, you have to be very literal in your reading of these actions, then they make sense. So, there's this nice playbook as well. The nice thing about the playbook is that there is a ton of designer notes in here, which, I always enjoy reading, what the designers, are going for in the design of the game. There's also a list of event cards, descriptions, which is cool because, I'm not familiar with all the events that happen that are portrayed in the game. And this will, tell you, kind of, what the card is representing in terms of the historical actual event, that takes place. So overall, top-notch, components on this game. And like I said, it looks really, I think it looks just really, pretty, as far as the, graphic representation of the game, in all the components. I don't think I had to sticker any of these either. I think they all come pre-stickered. I can't remember if I did or not. These things are embossed, so these aren't stickers at all. Maybe these aren't either. Maybe they are stickered. I don't know, but I don't think I had to sticker them. I could be wrong on that. So okay, that's kind of how the game went, and I will come back and do a final thoughts.